Piersall, the former Yavapai County Assessor, and I'm here today with Clarissa Nelson, the coordinator for the Yavapai County Reentry Program. So before we get started and find out, Clarissa, what you do and why you do it, I wanted to talk about my face. Yes, you might notice I have a retarded smile today. My husband calls it a smirk. I want to tell you what happened. I knew I was going to do this show and I wanted to be so pretty. So I went to a skin professional here locally and I said, what can you do to make me not look 60 years old anymore? And they said, well, we can give you some Juvederm and we'll, give you some shots and we can give you some Botox in your eyes. You're going to look so great. This is going to be fun. And cost $1,700. So I said, sure, $1,700. I got a credit card. I got a husband. So I give him my credit card and I get some Juvederm and I get some Botox. And they said, in 3 days, you're not going to have the krill feet from smiling. And the Juvederm, it hurts a little. You know what? Not a big deal. Totally awesome. I go home. My face hurts for a couple days. But in 3 days, I am not able to smile. I used to actually have a smile. I have a scowl. So when I'm scowling at you, it's not because I don't like the reentry program. It's because I paid $1,700 for this. I wanted to explain that before we got started so that when you make fun of my face, you know that I paid for this. So anyways, Clarissa, we're here with you today, and you're the coordinator for the Yavapai County Reentry Program. Can you tell me what that is?
So first of all, I want to say thanks for having me. Really excited to be here and tell you about the Yavapai Reentry Project. The Yavapai Reentry Project is a project of MapForce, and we have a target audience that we help assist, and those are individuals who have been incarcerated in the Department of Corrections and in county jail. We help provide encouragement, support, resources, guidance. If they qualify for the community coach part of the project, we pair them with a mentor, a volunteer, somebody in our community who wants to help these individuals succeed and be successful. And I'm just super passionate about this project because I myself, back in 2012, went through this project as a participant. Just kind of going back a little bit, I was an active drug addict for many years, over 25 years of my life. I came from a really abusive family where physical violence was there, emotional, mental abuse was there. Alcohol and drugs were used on a daily basis by my stepfather who raised me. My mom also used, but she didn't become fully addicted for many years later. But there was just a lot of different parts of my life that I just wasn't able to live. It was too much for me. And I turned to alcohol and drugs to escape, to not feel. When I was 13 years old, I found methamphetamines and was instantly addicted. That solved all my problems, at least I thought it did. I moved here to Arizona 28 years ago with my now ex-husband and my daughter at the time. She was a little over a year old. We came here to get me away from the drugs. Of course, that didn't happen because I didn't want to be away from them. I did get arrested quite often. I was on probation about 13 years here in Yavapai County, If you can believe that. A lot of times they just would add on to my probation and add on to my probation, and here's what I know from my journey, is that for me, there were people in my family that, yes, wanted me to get clean and sober. Probation would tell me I had to, the courts told me I had to do, X, Y, and Z. But until I wanted to do it, it wasn't going to be effective. And back in 2010, I had some clean time, but I was what they call a dry drunk. I wasn't working a program. And so I was just kind of holding on, to dear life to my seat, but not willing to do anything productive for myself. And when something major happened, I fell off. And when I fall off, I don't just kind of dabble. I would go full force. And I went from being a methamphetamine user to the end of my disease, a blackout drunk. I had a lot of anger and rage inside of me from a lot of different things throughout my lifetime. The abuse in the home that I grew up in. And then proceeding to be in relationships just like my mom was in. Mm-hmm. So I ended up seeking out men that were just like my biological father. And so that continued for a long time. So I had a lot of anger and rage inside of me. And until I was ready to work through that stuff, I was going to continue to use. Today I have a daughter and a son. It took my son a lot longer to come back into my life.
So let me stop you. You were on probation 13 years. So how old, your daughter was 1 when you came to Yavapai County. Mm-hmm. How old was she by the time you finally had to hit rock bottom or whatever you want to call it?
Well, when I was in prison, that was my rock bottom. Uh-huh. She was graduating from high school.
So her whole childhood,
her whole life,
you were...
I was gone. I wasn't there.
And you had a son in the meantime?
I had a son also.
And how old was he when you went to prison?
He's 2 years younger than her. So he would have been 16, but he wasn't in my life. So, both my kids lived with other people. My daughter was raised by her grandma, who was a big part here in Prescott. She taught at the schools. She was the music teacher, Mrs. Blake. She taught at the schools for years here, the elementary schools. But
so she was the father of your daughter's mother. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So my daughter lived with her. She raised my daughter because my ex-husband also struggled with addiction and went to prison himself. And then my son, she wasn't able to take care of both the kids. So another family stepped in and was willing to.
So you were lucky that it wasn't CPS or Department of Child Safety.
Raised my son. Mm-hmm. They were prominent people also in this community, Claire and Phil King. And I'm very thankful for them today, for them providing that home, that nourishment, that guidance, that for my son.
So you lost your freedom because of using, and you basically didn't have a relationship with your children because you just weren't.
I wasn't.
Present.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing is people say it over and over, but I'm there. And I'm like, but you're not there. You may be there in the physical form, but it's the emotional that those children need. Mm-hmm. And I'm really thankful for them stepping in and helping to raise both my kids. They turned out amazing.
So what happened? You finally got clean or got to prison? Because we know we went to prison.
So, I ended up going to prison for a total of 2.5 years was my sentence. During a blackout, I must have found methamphetamines and used it. I don't remember, but it was in my system. This time when they brought me into jail, I had about 7 different charges on me, which I don't remember doing because I was in a blackout. And then this time they were done. So I got sentenced to prison for 2.5 years for internal possession, methamphetamines in my system, disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. The judge ran my charges concurrent and not stacked. So so my prison sentence was just a total of 2.5 years. I did 2 years total in the Department of Corrections. And I was scared to death. I was going to come back here and I didn't know anything other than how to get high and break the law.
Right.
So it's always scary returning to that place where you did a lot of damage. While I was in prison, about 3 to 6 months to the gate. When you say to the gate, that means 3 to 6 months. I'm coming up on getting ready to be released. I received a little flyer in the mail for the Yavapai Reentry project. And I was on a yard that housed over 1,000 inmates. It wasn't 2-man cells. It was big, I call them like big barns, and you're like cattle warehouses. There's no privacy. Each bay holds 300 females. You sit on your bed and you can see everybody. There's no privacy. I don't recommend prison to anybody.
Not fun.
But it saved my life. Mm-hmm. It saved my life. Mm-hmm. And, one of the great things for me today is I got to thank the prosecutor that sentenced me. Mm-hmm. I didn't remember her because I was so messed up at the time, but I saw her just a couple years ago, and I was able to thank her for that because it helped save my life. I saw people coming in and out of that system, and I just couldn't understand what was going on and why they were back. Mm-hmm. And they would say, "We couldn't make it out there. This is the only life we know." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't want that for me. Mm-hmm. I don't want that for me." Neither of my kids had contact with me in prison. My daughter wrote me one time a 2-sentence letter that told me she was glad that I was doing good, but she wasn't ready to forgive me yet. And I had to honor that. Mm-hmm. And I had a lot of self-work to do.
Mm-hmm. In prison, did they give you counseling for the trauma that had been?
No.
No? Did they give you like AA or NA or something like that?
Those were options. And to be honest, I chose not to go to them.
Ready.
I focused on, while I was there, I got my GED because I had dropped out of school at a young age.
Yeah, 13 you started using, so you just weren't,
So I focused on getting my GED, and then I started college while I was in there, which is really hard. You had to do it all by mail, writing things out by hand. I think it's might have changed a little bit since then. Now they have tablets in there that people can use. But then you had to do everything by hand and send it back to the instructor through mail. But that was, an awakening for me. It really was. I'd hate to think what would happen if I didn't go to prison. And if this project itself wasn't there when I was released.
Where you'd be now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and end this first segment now. And we're going to come back to a second section to find out what happened when you got released, how you connected, and how you got where you are now, and what the reentry program will do for others. So please tune in to section 2, which will be airing soon. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.